think it was very interesting that we had the meeting with the minister. We had, I would say, a high-level reception, having the opportunity to speak to the minister, but also having the opportunity to speak to the Secretary of State for Education. And it was very good to listen to the many issues that Poland is facing now, with the big number of refugees from the Ukraine coming to Poland. We are impressed as a delegation in ETUCE, European Trade Union Committee for Education, how welcoming Polish people are, how many activities, actions, solidarity actions, support actions have been put in place by people, by ordinary people, finding housing, taking up people, but also providing the basic needs. So like I know that there have been collections for clothes, for food, for medical, medicine in general, but also as education trade unions, we've been really impressed to see how also our member organizations, how education trade unions, how schools, universities are going out and beyond to welcome the refugees and make them feel home. Make them really feel home after what they have experienced back home in their own country, in the Ukraine. And it was very interesting speaking to the minister about this. It was very clear that Poland is looking for the solidarity also in Europe with the other member states in the European Union. Poland is asking also for more support regarding financial support, and there's a clear commitment from the European Union institutions to support Poland in this question and in these times. It was very interesting to speak to the minister also about the whole situation, because there are many practical things to solve. And certainly one of the biggest issues is not knowing how long the refugees are going to stay. So I think at the beginning of the war, people thought this might be a short war, and things would be quickly over. But we have seen that the fight of the Ukrainians is a strong fight. They're fighting for democracy, and they're fighting for us as well. We're very clear, and the support they have been receiving, and are continuously receiving, means also that they're holding on. The war has been prolonged, but this means also the longer the war goes on, the bigger the destruction is back in the country, and this means also puts a big question mark to when can people go back. We have heard that also from here, from Poland, but also from other countries that are hosting refugees. When there was a big pushback of the Russian military, people started to go back into their countries, because people don't want to stay abroad. They want to be in their home country, of course. But nobody knows how long the situation is going to last. There will be people who will be able, once peace is installed, to go back, but there will be also many people who will not be just able to go back, because their home cities have been destroyed, their houses are destroyed, and it'll take years for them to go back. So certainly for some students, for some refugees also who are here in Poland, it will not just be a question of months. It is more likely a question of years until they can go back. And experience shows from other refugee situations that people also after a while, they might wish to settle in the country. So then Poland might also have quite a number of people who wish to stay here and to set up their lives forever in Poland. And this will mean, of course, also that there's going to be an impact, there's going to be a change necessary. We also had the opportunity this morning to speak to students, Ukrainian students, at the Polytechnica of Warsaw. And they're clearly also students who have come here seeking refuge and shelter from the war, but who are hoping to be able to actually graduate here in Warsaw. So they're already projecting themselves for a longer stay for a purpose and then to go back. But it's for them clear that they would like to stay longer to take the exam. And so these are different issues that indeed the ministry is very well aware of. And it's been important to talk. We heard the minister being open also to learn from the situations from other countries. And we have offered to share our experiences from previous projects that we have had. For example, of course, Europe faced a very big refugee crisis, even it was called at that time, back in 2015 with the war in Syria. And many countries, not Poland, but many countries were taking a big number of refugees, so there is a lot of experience indeed. And on top, maybe, which made that even more challenging, with a different cultural background. So there's a lot to share at European level from that experience, and we will be happy to provide that information to the minister, to the ministry. But also, what was interesting to hear is the wish of the Ukrainian government to continue offering education in Ukrainian to the students, to the pupils who are abroad, and the wish of continuing also the graduation system, the Ukrainian graduation system, in a different country. Yeah. And this is very, very challenging to put in place. I think also the ministry indeed is looking at how to have a best flexible way in order not to impose any ready-made or the Polish system on the Ukrainian students, but at the same time to be able to provide an education system in Ukrainian, which is very difficult because we're talking about an education system that is already under strain. So we face already in Europe a shortage of teachers, a shortage also of specialized teachers, which we need in this situation even more. We need more psychologically trained staff that can support the students, but also teachers who come with traumas. We need adapted training programs for teachers. All this needs public funding. And in Poland there is not enough funding in education. We need more funding for education, and now putting the strain on top of that with the many pupils who are coming into the system means more workload for the teachers, but it also means the infrastructure has to be created, and on top building that for an Ukrainian education system is a very, very high demand. So I think there's a lot of strain at the moment on the education system. So I think as a European Trade Union Committee for Education, first, the most important what we can provide is indeed this exchange. Exchange of good practices, of sharing of good practices, because we have many organizations who are in similar situations, certainly not in situations with such a big number of refugees or of students, but in similar issues like facing the issue of additional workload, of training, what is appropriate training, how can it be offered. So these are good practices. Then of course at European level, we also have member organizations not only in the EU but also outside the EU. So for example, we do have to member organizations in the Ukraine. So we also support the exchange between our Polish member organizations and our Ukrainian organizations, but we also, for example, have member organizations in Turkey. And Turkey now, everybody knows, is probably the country that is hosting the highest number of refugees at the moment because of the geopolitical or the geostrategic situation and where they are. They are at the moment the gatekeeper for the European Union regarding refugees. But we have member organizations also in Turkey, and of course we're in contact with them. They have a lot of experience also to share, and certainly with a bigger number even of refugees than here in Poland. So that is surely one experience. The other way how we can support is, of course, from our mission now here. We will be reporting back to the European Union, to the Commission, but also to the institutions in general. We will make sure that the situation of Polish teachers here, or of the education system also here in Poland, in hosting the refugees, really gets to the people at European level, to free the funds that are necessary or make more funds available. But also we have ETUCE is the European region of Education International, and Education International has a trade union solidarity fund in place, which is open for our member organizations in the Ukraine, but also for our member organizations in the countries hosting refugees. So this fund is available, and we will make also funds from that fund available for our member organizations here in Poland, who are doing a tremendous job really in supporting the refugees here. Absolutely. So there are many more countries that are hosting refugees, but we wanted to make a start, and we chose the countries that at the moment are hosting the biggest number or receiving the biggest number of refugees. So indeed, from Poland, our next stop will be Romania and then Moldova, which may be in a slightly different situation, but very similar. Romania, in comparison to Poland, is a country that is receiving many refugees, but already has a bigger number of people who will then move on. So they stay in the country for a short while, but then they move on to other destination countries. And that is even more so for Moldova. Moldova is really a transition country for refugees. They stay very shortly in Moldova and then move on to other countries. But these are also countries that are really faced with a very high number of refugees because they are on the border. And then, of course, in comparison, maybe if we take a comparison of Moldova to Poland, Moldova doesn't have even the means at its disposal that Poland has. They are also not an EU country. So again, the funding opportunities again are different. But it's unbelievable, and it's just really unbelievable how supportive and welcoming the people are in Moldova to the refugees, opening schools, opening sports centers sometimes, to host the people coming across the border. So we will be going there to visit them, to see also what are the practices, the experiences they have, what are the good practices there. And then in order to we would like to report from those 3 countries and make sure that there's an exchange also amongst the 3 countries, but also towards the European Commission to report on that work.